Hello, my name is Roland Waits, and the name of this video is Peroni's Explosive F3 Crash at Monza. Several weeks ago, a driver named Peroni was coming around the parabolic, I guess it was. And they had what they love to call this thing a sausage curb. And Peroni was coming around here and he hit this sausage curb and the car blew up in the sky and flew across the track, and when he landed, from the reports that I heard, he injured his neck. But thankfully the halo saved his life that day. But it's very deceptive when you look at this and you make an assessment where you go, oh, he just hit it and it blew it up in the air. And this is what we're going to investigate a little bit. This is going to be a quick video. If you look at those F3 cars, I mean, it's tailor-made to have a real problem with a sausage curb. Because the car goes like this, down like this, and it comes into the cockpit area where the driver sits here. It comes down like this, and then there's this under tray that sticks out 2 feet right behind the front wheel. And its whole purpose is to generate downforce to pull the front of the car down as you go around the track. Well, Peroni comes around the track, and the sausage curb is here, and he's come around the track, and the problem is he's off the racing line. He has cars over here that he's trying to stay out of the way of, so he's slowly coming around to the sausage curb. Slowly is relative because he's doing like probably 120 miles an hour. Maybe between 90 and 120 miles an hour. Right before he gets to this sausage curb, he hits his brakes, and what that does is the whole front of the car goes down. This piece, actually the front compresses, this goes down and actually creates a situation where the sausage curb, it goes under the sausage curb like this. Now you'll notice that I drew this with sections, square sections, and a angle section like that, and he's going this way. If you look at the picture before he gets here, the way that these sausage curbs, you'll see a sausage curb pops up after the crash, and it looks like this. And I gotta believe that right here is some form of like adhesive, along with the bolts that they use to hold it on, because before he gets here, the way these sausage curbs are built is you buy them in sections. You buy sections, square sections, and there's 2 different types: square sections, and then you have an angle section like this, okay? And that allows you put these on both ends, ideally like this. And what this does is this allows the tires to run up on it, and you run across it, and you don't run into the situation that Peroni ran into here. But unfortunately, that day, if you look at this sausage curb, you can clearly see, before he gets there, there's nothing here. All that's here is the white outline of the adhesive. So this angle part's already off. So he's actually driving into a squared in section. Now, let's get into how this thing exploded up into the air, because the physics of this is amazing. It's not a simple impact and rise up in the air. The cameraman who took the picture of Peroni flying up off the ground with such violence was so taken back that he did not follow Peroni's car up in the air. And I thought that was telling, because he was going to himself, I'm sure he was going, what the hell just happened? What did he hit? Well, this is what happened. Here's that, they love to call it a sausage curb. You can use this, or you can use this. I use this. Sausage curb. Well, Peroni drives up on this at between 120 and 90 miles an hour. This is the under tray of the car. The wheels are over here. He comes up underneath this, and he literally drives this under tray under the curb, which causes all of these sections to compress this way. Now, you've got the car, the forward momentum of the car. This is energy. You have the under tray trying to be torn off by the curb. This is energy. These are made of a form of synthetic rubber, I believe. And then you've got energy in that. Now what you wind up with is the under tray hangs on as long as it can hang on. Something has to give. And what happens is the under tray tears off of the car. But because the car is built like this, what you wind up with is a situation where the under tray breaks off like this. This curb has essentially been cut off the ground. It bounces up, down, and up under the car. The last bounce up is what sends the car flying. This all happens in under a half second. I mean, this is an astonishing amount of energy transferred into a stationary object that transfers the energy into a car going over top of it. And this is why when Peroni's car explodes up into the air like this, and takes off on its flight, all of these pieces of curb go this way. They don't follow the car. I mean, if this was a simple impact and this broke off and went this way, this should follow the car up into the air. But it didn't. What it did was, this piece of the under tray dug itself under the sausage curb, and the physics involved in this in a millisecond of transferring force down this line of sausage curbs. These didn't give, these still held. You get this kind of transference of force down and back, okay? Because that's what energy does. Energy goes until it hits something solid, and then it bounces back. And this is where you get this kind of ba-bam! And that's why everything went this way, down low. It went down low as his car went flying up in the air. So it's an astonishing impact. Those cars, those F3 cars, with that under tray, like this, should never be allowed on any track that has any type of runoff, valley, or ditch, or curb, or anything. This piece needs to be able to break off the car without sending the car up in the air. What happened here was it was so well fastened to the bottom of the car that it got driven under that curb so far and so fast that it stored so much energy in under a second that it threw a car up in the air with its driver like it was tossing a frisbee up in the air. That's what his car looked like. It tossed a frisbee up in the air, and then everything went this way. So look at that accident again. Go online and look at the F3 cars, and you'll see the under tray right here extending out from underneath the driver. He's very, very blessed that his back wasn't shattered by this accident, because that car took an astonishing amount of force, and the fact that it flew off the track was a godsend, because as it's flying through the air and it's twisting and turning, it's losing energy, and then bang, it lands. Thank God for the halo. The halo saved his life. But more importantly is that under tray design is blatantly unsafe with sausage curbs. It just is. And they need to do something about it. Either they get rid of the under tray or they get rid of the sausage curbs. And I'm actually more leaning towards getting rid of the sausage curbs, because let's face it, driver sitting in a race car today sits right on the damn ground. There's very little between him and the ground right here. And I watched those Formula One drivers go over those sausage curbs, and every time they drive over them, I wince, because I know that there is no room. There's literally 1 inch between their back and whatever they're bouncing across. If it's a sausage curb, if it's a curb, if they have an explosion off the track, they are tied in tight here. And any kind of impact down or any kind of impact up, if the car stays down, it gets transferred right into the driver's back. So they need to really think about this. Now, sausage curbs, the one place sausage curbs make sense is on a street track when you have turns like this right here, where you have a long straight and they come down to it, and you put a sausage curb here, so they have a transition in the track like this, so that they will ride up on the sausage curb before they hit the right angle concrete wall. That makes sense, because it gives them a transitional part where the car can transmit force into the suspension and maybe make the turn, or even if it hits this first, it doesn't hit this square on like that. That's where sausage curb makes sense. Where they had this thing in the middle of a turn was insane. It was absolutely insane. They should have never done it. And especially this front part right here was gone. The transition was gone. The transition piece was gone. They shouldn't even been racing on it. I mean, honest to God, to me, I think the FIA should be sued for letting them race on that, because they check the track out. They're the guys they have their guys go out and check the track. In any case, this is what happened in this F3 explosive crash. It's not a simple impact. It was a storing of energy. Those cars, that under tray is insane. If you look at it online, you'll say, what in the hell is that? So I strongly recommend that they take all these sausage curbs off of where the drivers can drive over them. The street courses, it makes sense. It makes no sense at all where a car can get its body like this, and the guy's sitting here and he's driving over a sausage curb like that. That makes no sense, because right there is the guy's lower back. And what you're doing is you're playing roulette with a driver running over that at 150 miles an hour, and him, all he has to do is go along the sausage curb and hit one sausage curb that's raised up like that, and right there where he hits it, that is a shattered back. So think about that, okay? That's all I wanted to say. I think the sausage curbs have their place, but certainly not in the middle of a turn. And as far as gravel traps go, although I love gravel traps, I think that asphalt runoffs, after looking at some old videos of gravel traps where people went off of them at 200 miles an hour and they didn't stop. What happens with a gravel trap, unfortunately, it's like ball bearings at 170 mile per hour. You don't go into the gravel, you just sort of skim along the gravel and you smack the wall as hard as you did when you came off the track. But there has to be some kind of control. They have to get their act together and tell these drivers that you drive off the track, we're just going to disallow your time. I mean, what they could do, and I hate this idea, I just hate it. I would rather see the gravel traps, because, you know, we just had a Laguna Seca race in IndyCar. It was one of the best races I've seen in a long time. And it was because they got gravel traps, because the drivers drove to stay on the asphalt. But Formula One doesn't have that. What Formula One could do is, this is the back of the car. Here's where the driver sits. Here's the wing. Those are the tires. Except, don't we wish. But if you put a transponder here and you put a transponder here, like this, and where the paint is, say this is the painted line, and say this is the track, and he drives over the track like this, suddenly the transponder, you put a form of transmission in here that this transponder will recognize. He drives over this, as soon as that transponder sees that, guess what? You got a penalty. We got to get the drivers back on the tracks. We can't have them driving through the asphalt runoffs at 150 miles an hour trying to get back on the track. We can't do that. We can't have the drivers driving off the runoffs and thinking that it's acceptable to drive through the runoff because it's asphalt, and then just keep on barreling through the runoff back on the track. We can't do that. Now, I mean, I don't know what we're going to do. Gravel traps is the most innocuous way of doing it, but they are a safety hazard in excessively high-speed turns. It's just a fact. So I don't know. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say about that. The F3 crash is much more complicated than you've been led to believe, and that car, the design of that car is insane. The design of that car is insane. It's the only way I can tell it. That under tray, when I looked at that under tray, I said, have you people lost your goddamn minds? Don't you understand that if he runs off the track and he hits something underneath the car and he stuffs it into that under tray is going to guarantee injury to the driver? So anyway, that's all I want to say.